Go. We are on.
All right, I will start us off then.
Okie dokie.
So our learning theory is the stage theory of cognitive development. It was first developed by Jean Piaget. It came about in 1936 in France, because that's where Piaget is from.
Alrighty. So we think this theory was developed because children develop differently at different times. Their minds, we're not little adults. Children are definitely not little adults, and their minds develop differently. So they have to start out with something concrete, something that they know is there, and they have to build up to something where it can be abstract. To me, music is a prime example. In music, in elementary school, we start out with something solid, something right there, like instruments. We'll tap on the ground, the beat. And then we've moved now into college, and I tap the beat on my heart now. I don't have anything there in my hand to tap the beat like I used to. So I have to use the beat in my heart and in my brain. So you have to move from concrete to abstract in order for kids to really understand.
Yeah. And so to kind of look at that, how this theory works, there's different stages of development. There are, the younger stages where you have sensory motor and pre-concrete, but we're really just going to be focusing on the last two stages, which is concrete operations and formal operations. Concrete operations really kind of works around the ages around ages 6 to 11, and that is
we froze.
A matter. They have more logic and math, where it's a lot concrete, like it's a lot of hands-on learning. That's easier for them to understand, and operational thinking, and things that they can see, and really, like I said, a hands-on, they can use that. And so that is where you start off at the younger age, between 6 and 11, but then you progress into the last stage, which you want to explain the formal operations?
Yeah. So the formal operations really starts when you're about 12. You start to be, you're able to jump into the abstract thinking and think about things that aren't quite there. You're able to understand things that are hypothetical. So instead of something being physically right there, you're like, oh, okay, well, what if this was here? You're able to use your deductive reasoning, which is fantastic. I love it. You're able to make better moral judgments. You're able to think about things, and you're able to actually think through things, and if this is right or this is wrong, and then why it is. So yeah. you have reasoning behind that, and you're also able to think about things in the future, because when you're little, you don't really think about the future. It's really scary, and you're like, it's not in front of me. But once you get to the older stage, like especially in college, you're like, okay, I'm going to have a future, and this is what it's going to be, and you're actually able to manipulate those ideas in order to being in your future.
Right. And this can be seen in a couple of different ways in the classroom. And you see this because as I kind of think of it, like if our mind itself goes from concrete to formal, like our mental brain has to go from getting something concrete to getting something formal. I think that's how our teaching should also be. That it should go from presenting things in more concrete than to a more formal, abstract way to our students. And you can see that in both mine and Shelby's majors of math and music. I'll explain the math and I'll let her take over the music. But when you're younger in math, you get a lot of like hands-on things. You get math blocks that you can play with, that you can see the tense places, or you can round with. And it's a lot more, it's games to help you figure out how to do math, and simple operations and things, and that's at the concrete level. But then as you get older and as you're progressing in that math, you get the theories behind stuff, you get the reasons why. You may not need the concrete math blocks anymore. You can go to just being able to do your math on a piece of paper instead. Instead of counting on your fingers, you can just mentally do it and quickly make that exchange.
Alrighty, and for what I noticed back in the way back in the day, as I said, like we used instruments to tap the beat, or I've seen in classrooms where they create out of pipe cleaner, like little notes, like a whole note or a half note or any of the notes, just so that the kids can physically see what is going to be what is on the paper, what's on the board, why is that on the board, I don't know what it is, so they have something in their hands to be able to use. And now as you go on, you're able to just see the notes on the page and, oh, I can read that, I know what that is, that's a whole note or it's a half note, and you can tap the beat, and things aren't, you can just call out something in choir now, and and you do it. Like my teacher always, she's like, okay, lift your soft palate, do all of this, and we can we can do that mentally now. We don't have to have something physical in front of us to be able to know how to do that anymore. It's quite lovely. But
I guess our last point for this, as we were thinking about, connecting this learning theory to something else that we have learned, we both kind of can connect it to two of the paradigms, progressivism and constructivism. Shelby made the observation that I agree with, that progressivism, you really see that at the younger ages. And, when you're progressing through your knowledge, you're collaborating with each other, you're working together, and you see that in the early stages, just trying to figure things out by just trial and error, and you just progress through things. But then we thought these last two stages of going from concrete to formal is very much so like constructivism, especially with the music article that we read on it, and how you start with something concrete and you move to more abstract, and you're kind of putting new information on old information in that way. So we just thought that was a cool connection that we discussed, and we thought we would share with you, Dr. Ruby. Yeah.
All right.
So I think that covers our learning theory.
I think so too.